Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Turner Podcasting System. We're back for another episode of WCW Memories. It's the Prez. I'm here once again talking about WCW. I'm here with my co-host, the one and only WCW expert himself. He is the man known as the Stinger. Stinger, how you doing, buddy?
Yo, wrestling fans, the Prez, how are you? Nothing much, just, hitting up the 2000s vibe this week, checking out a
That's
ton
right,
of
man.
WCW.
We're going to get into another WCW 2000s pay-per-view right here on this episode. We're going to be reviewing WCW Fall Brawl 2000, which took place live from Buffalo, New York. What do you think about the fans from Buffalo in this pay-per-view, Stinger?
I mean, Buffalo's always a good city for wrestling, iconic crowds for sure. I think this one had a little more life, they were a little more emotional, they were more engaging. So yeah, I did definitely approve that fresh 2000 crowd vibe from Buffalo, New York.
Indeed. Indeed. And this episode is brought to you by the X-Pac Make Some Noise contest over on indiequebec.com. You could win an X-Pac Mattel Elite action figure. It's X-Pac in his NWO gear. It comes with a removable cane mask, 6 interchangeable hands. It's a really great figure. And the only way to win this figure is to like the indiequebec.com Facebook page. Everyone who likes that page in the month of January will automatically be entered to win. The drawing will be at the end of the month of January. I'll send that figure right out to you. That's it. indiequebec.com Facebook page.
Check it out, guys.
Yeah. So we're going to get right into the pay-per-view. How about that commentary team again, Stinger? Mark Madden, Tony Schiavone, and Scott Hudson.
Definitely, yeah, I'm starting at, I got attached to them back then, and listening to them brings a lot of nostalgia. You brought up a point before. It kind of seemed like they were hyped for some matches, but a lot of them you could feel on the commentary that they were like, ugh, what's going on?
Felt like they
who
were
wrote
saying
this?
it was like another day at the job kind of thing.
Yeah,
they weren't really too into
exactly. Whereas in New Blood Rising, they were really screaming and into it, and even when it was lackluster, they were still into it and trying to, hype up the product. But this one, they did seem a bit down, I would say, or kind of discouraged since we're nearing the end.
Yeah, maybe they were maybe it was a hard day or hard day at work, or who knows? But yeah, they really seemed pretty subdued. We have a 10 match card again. What do you think about 10 matches on a card? Is that too much?
I mean, I personally 10. I mean, we can go up to 7 sometimes. 6 if you have a solid card. 10 I found was quite a lot. They were trying to cram. You could tell Vince Russo's crammer stipulations as well, as you know.
Indeed.
So
yeah, it feels like a lot was crammed on this show. But that is like a hallmark of Vince Russo shows.
And I think he was trying to go all big for every pay-per-view. Again, we are nearing the end, and no one knew this at the time back in the 2000s. So I was still playing
not us as like teenage wrestling fans at the time.
Absolutely.
We had no idea.
Absolutely.
We were just watching it, loving it. So at this time, they normally would start pay-per-views with a cruiserweight match. That is the case again here. It's Kiwi versus Elix Skipper to start off the pay-per-view. What do you think about that as a starter for the pay-per-view?
Honestly, at the time, amazing to me because they were both great wrestlers. Absolutely great talent. The gimmicks a bit funny, but they did keep that tradition where they were starting out with cruiserweights. And honestly, I like this match. It was your typical opening match. But I do like that they always keep that tradition of starting out with a cruiserweight match.
Yeah. So yeah, this is like the new era of cruiserweights. They had gotten rid of a lot of the luchadors at this era, and they brought in guys like Kiwi, who also went as Alan Funk at one point, remember?
Alan Funk,
his,
yes.
Like, alter ego when he got angry. And Elix Skipper here, who's in his Canadian gimmick, where he claimed to have played for the CFL, and and one of his he would bring a CFL ring to the ring,
and use
it as a weapon. He's accompanied by Major Guns, Tylene Buck. Kwee is accompanied by Paisley, who went on to be Queen Charmel later on.
Formerly known as Charmel.
That's right. In this era, Russo, I think he disbanded the Nitro Girls and he gave them all characters on the show. He made them all someone's manager. It's kind of a better way to use them, but it was kind of hit or miss. The Nitro Girls was a good staple of WCW. It really set WCW. It was something that when you watched WCW, you knew you were watching a WCW show when you saw the Nitro Girls.
Absolutely, absolutely. I do agree. It was kind of like they brought that football vibe, right? And they just made it. WCW made it their own. Every time you saw the Ring Girls, you knew it was WCW, and they had that. They just had that at first. WWE never thought of it. WWF at the time, but I definitely agree. And it was better because it got, I wouldn't say lame after a while. It just got repetitive, and the Bring It On ish type. I think was getting abolished, so it would make sense at that time to put them all in gimmicks and as a manager and things like that. So
yeah, it was a way to spotlight them. That was really like a Vince Russo thing. He wanted everyone to have a character, which I guess the wrestlers and the people appreciated that he really went out of his way to develop their characters. At one point, okay, we got to say, Elix Skipper was an amazing wrestler. Like, this guy was underrated. People don't remember him as much because he didn't come to WWE, but this guy was really good. At one point, he does a moonsault off the top rope to the outside, and it completely takes out a cameraman.
Absolutely.
That probably cost the company a couple $1,000.
A lot of money, yeah. But Elix was definitely underrated, underdog. Absolutely, he was a great wrestler too, and he was great on the mic. He played a great heel, Team Canada heel. So it was good. Same with Kwee, aka Mr. Funk, which we used to yell out in the halls at some point in high school, many times. But yeah, I think Elix Skipper it was just sad we never saw him in WWE because people would have known of him after that.
Yeah, it just didn't work out for him. For whatever reason, no, the guy was really talented. He went on to TNA for a bit, but I mean, TNA wasn't a national company at the time, I think, even when he was there.
Right, like WWE.
Yeah, I think just because it was the first match on the show and Kwee was the babyface or the good guy in the match, he actually gets like a great reaction from the crowd here. The crowd loves Kwee for this match.
Yeah, I did realize. I think he was a super babyface for this one, and obviously Elix was a great heel. But Kwee at some point, yeah, he was starting to climb up the echelons of the cruiserweight, the new gen cruiserweight. So yeah. I do realize that they invested in him, actually, WCW, which was good. He was a good wrestler, by the way. Nothing.
Yeah, they were really showcasing him at one point. They wanted to develop his character for sure.
Yeah, he was quirky and a little crazy for sure.
Yeah, he's another guy who he never really went anywhere after WCW. We never really heard much from the Kwee Alan Funk.
The Alan Funk.
So at one point, Mark Madden says that move's illegal in Canada. And Hudson says, we're not in Canada. And then Madden's like, oh, I wish we were in Canada. He's always pretty good on commentary talking about Canada. Madden, he was always on Team Canada's side. He was a great heel commentator.
He was super heel at some point, and even though he is from Pittsburgh, he just loved Team Canada. And every time Team Canada came on, he became their official announcer and commentator.
Yeah, indeed, that's right. I like. So yeah, Skipper wins with the overdrive, and we hear his awesome theme song, which is a ripoff of a DMX song, "Party Up."
Super ripoff, and we knew it at the time.
So WCW to rip off a song. They'll just hear a song on the radio and rip it off, just enough so they can't get sued.
Raven, Diamond Dallas Page, quite a lot of theme songs were ripped off.
Yeah. So yeah, another one is the prime time. You got to check that out on YouTube for anyone who hasn't heard it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also, Jimmy Hart would like to rip off a lot. He did a lot of the vocals, by the way, right?
Yeah, Jimmy Hart might have actually made this song.
Exactly. So
Might be
chances
like
are
his,
Jimmy Hart made this song for sure.
he made a rap beat here. It's very possible. The guy was pretty talented. I actually met Jimmy Hart once at a Top of the World Wrestling show in Montreal.
That's awesome.
He was pretty cool. He was quite a small guy. He was like a little man, which is
Yeah, little.
perfect for a manager, you know.
Absolutely.
He made the guys look bigger right beside him. So Primetime picks up the win. It was a good match. In the show, it's very 2000s. Like the references, they're referencing the Sydney Olympics. Remember that in 2000?
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh
Sydney,
my God,
Australia.
that's so 2000. You can also tell what people are wearing. Like
Oh
it's
yeah, in the
so
crowd, some
2000s baggy t-shirts and jeans. It was
cargo
just
pants,
cargo pants. Oh my God, like
spiked
5
hair,
pockets.
frosted
Uh,
tipped, spiked hair.
super 2000s, man.
And here comes we'll get into the next match. Something that was very popular in the 2000s was like NSYNC, the Backstreet Boys, the boy bands. And we get 3 Count, the wrestling version of a boy band. One of WCW's more creative character creations, I would say, towards the end of their characters. What do you think of 3 Count? They come out here and they lip sync a full song before their match.
It was just so cheesy then, and it's so cheesy now. It was practically hilarious. You know what they were doing, they were so like they were going 2000s with this. It was just, the Backstreet Boy feel, and like they had good talent. They were young guys, like I said, they made a star out of Shane Helms, and we never saw the two other again, for much. But I think it was at the time I thought it was awkward. I really didn't like them because I was into the Linkin Park and the Limp Bizkit back in the day.
Exactly. At the
And you're a
time,
teenager, you're like, this is against my religion to like this.
and that's the thing. At that time too, it was really the MTV music video era. And there was
Exactly.
like 2 sides. Because like, okay, all teenagers watched Music Plus here in Montreal, or Much
Absolutely.
Music in Canada, or
Much Music.
MTV. Eventually we got MTV Canada. But at the time, we didn't even have MTV in Canada. Much Music would show MTV stuff, and Music Plus would show some MTV stuff. But okay, so say on the top 5, everyone watched the countdown. That was like every teenager watched this. There was like the side of people who liked the Rage Against the Machine bands, Limp Bizkit, Korn, Kid Rock, stuff like that. And then there was the pop side, like Britney Spears, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, which was like mostly the females, of course. But there were some females who liked the metal side, and there were some guys who liked the pop side. So there was a mix, but there was like two camps. And like anyone who watched Music Plus, who was watching it for the pop, hated the metal music, and anyone who was watching it for the metal hated watching the Britney Spears and all that. But how many times would, even if you hated it, Stinger, like it would just be on. We would just leave it on, right? Like people would just leave on the Backstreet Boys. You knew it would be over in like 2 minutes, and it would be like Nookie or End Together Now.
Absolutely. It was mixed at that time because you would see Eminem and then you would see Britney Spears right after, or Christina Aguilera, and then you'd see Korn come on. Yeah. So it was just like that. It was mixed. And this came, it was kind of like the classic 70s. It was disco versus rock. It's always been there, especially in Quebec because we had Music Plus. So you had 2 crowds. In our high school, we had 2 crowds. Yeah. At some point, it became a little more emo, but this is a little later in the 2000s. Emo, but yeah, we'll have full episodes on that coming up. But
we'll have
yeah,
to
for sure.
Some era, some emo.
So it's funny, it's brilliant you say that, Prez, because it was like that in WCW. It was just mixed. You had it's just the gimmicks, the way Russo. So a lot of it was influenced from the 2000s. All the if you really realize that the stipulations were all mixed up, kind of like music videos on music stations.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, 3 Count are heels. There's probably some people who like them, but I mean, it was like it was a funny gimmick. But when it got down to it, these guys were really good in the ring. They're
Definitely.
taking on The Wall, Chavo Guerrero, and Corporal Cajun. So it's basically another cruiserweight match, but with The Wall in it. So I like The Wall being in it. He adds a lot of dynamic, like a different dynamic. When he's in the ring, it totally changes the dynamic of the match. I actually really like that. What do you think about this match, Stinger?
Absolutely. I actually enjoyed it, to my surprise, because when I saw them come out at that time, I was like, ugh, but I was entertained. I actually watched this with my father. Yes, guys, back in the day. And I enjoyed it. Even last night when I watched it, I went over it again and I watched it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't a classic or anything, but definitely entertained. And I did like that AWOL was in. They used them, they wanted to use them, and they gave him some time, and he does change dynamic. Totally agree with that. Also, he was, I think, newly recruited. They had just recruited him, and MIA was, starting to become a stable, they were already stable, but they were actually starting to incorporate more different talents in. So it was nice
Yeah,
to
they were
see
growing.
balance. So they were growing, definitely.
I think at the time they really reminded me of the Job Squad, though, so I didn't give them that much respect. But they were good wrestlers. But the Job Squad had a lot of good wrestlers in it too. You could
Absolutely.
tell that, like, I mean, they were getting they're on pay-per-view here. They would always be on Nitro, but you could tell like they weren't going to be main eventers anytime soon.
No, I think they were fillers just for shows,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they
They're
were
fillers.
fillers.
They would get a good reaction for fillers, but yeah, like looking back on it, I kind of respect them more, I think, now than I did back then.
Absolutely, especially the variety, and they had good talent, totally. So, yeah, don't disagree with that.
Yeah, at one point, so the Wall goes through a table off the apron, which is a pretty cool thing because I
It
thought the
was
Wall was going to put someone through a table, which would have,
absolutely.
I mean, he always does that, which is cool. It's fine. Everyone has their thing, but seeing him go through a table instead made it a little bit more special. It actually really drew my attention when he went through the table.
For sure.
And pretty much that. It's not that great of a match. It's not that bad of a match. It's a wild match. And I'd say overall, it could have been like skipped though. Like with this many matches on the card, if you're gonna skip a match, that might have been the match to skip.
Yeah,
There's no
agree.
title on the line.
It was just a filler.
That's it, exactly. So it's just a filler. And so we get to NWO 2000. They show up and they deny a kid an autograph backstage while they're coming into the arena. It's not really an interview, just seeing them show up, which was it's a trope of this era. Seeing the guys show up to the arena, which is like, I always found that like weird. Like, okay, some guys, everyone else has to show up on time, but these guys can show up late for work and they show it like, oh, they showed up. Like, shouldn't they already all be there? It's their job to be there.
That's what happens when you get paid a beautiful salary to come in and do. But I think it was the whole at that time. I think it was because most of the time, if you realize it was heels or a baby face, so you'd see Cobra come in, pull up with the security, etc. So or more like to say in WCW was always heels showing up, and I was just like, oh, they're late, they don't
Like,
care, they don't
oh
respect the
shit,
show. So
they're gonna come here
yeah,
disrupt. Yeah,
classic. Absolutely. They did that every show, man. Thunder, Nitro, they did it with the pay-per-views
yeah. The
all the time.
NWO can show up late. That's
Exactly.
fine. But like, I
That's
mean,
the NWO
they
only.
would always show the guys showing up, and like it would just be to make them look badass, basically.
Exactly.
They did it on Raw. They did it on Nitro. It was on every wrestling show at the time. So our
Absolutely.
next match, the Harris Brothers, one of my personal least favorite tag teams to watch, taking on Chronic, which is building on New Blood Rising from last month, which we also reviewed. You can go back in the archives and check that one out, where the
Chronic.
Harris cost Chronic the tag team titles. It's a first blood chain match. And I'll remind the fans that at this time, the Harris brothers' names were Big Ron and Heavy D.
Heavy
What do you think
D.
about those names?
Man, did I not like it? I didn't like them then, and I still don't like them, honestly. I, I have no comments on that. I mean, they were a big tag team. They were always a good heel. You know, they were fillers, I would say as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were down with Chronic, for sure, 100%. But their gimmick, I think, they just came back out of nowhere to feud with the big. So it was a big boy feud, right?
Yeah, this match is just like a
For big
crazy
boys.
brawl.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
not
Like,
really much wrestling. It's not a pretty match. They're all like almost 300 pounds in there, so you
exactly.
get what you get. It doesn't get overly violent, but it gets pretty violent towards the end. The Harrises use a barbed wire baseball bat, but I mean, pretty sure it was not real barbed wire. But
Yeah.
they allude to violence without it getting like ultra violent. It doesn't get ECW level here or anything.
I think they were trying to work on the hardcore at that time, right? Remember they had
Indeed.
the hardcore
It's
division,
a
they had
theme
the
of this
belt.
show, actually.
Yeah, it's super big theme, especially in the year 2000, because when they revamped, they just wanted to, you know, balance everything and put everything in. So cruiserweight and the hardcore, man, they put a lot of they invested a lot in the hardcore matches, and this was an example of it. Especially it wasn't a hardcore, it was just a first blood, first chain. So I liked the match, but it was just, you know, Ron and Don and
Yeah, Ron and
lackluster a
Don.
bit. Yeah, round and down.
We're
So
probably going to end up seeing a lot of these guys in our further reviews. And they pick up the win here. So the Harris brothers are the tag team champions. After the match, the Chronic are pissed off and they choke slam the ref. And they
Billy
get a big reaction.
Silverman by giving him the high times.
That's right. Great name for that double choke slam, the high times.
Absolutely.
Chronic was a great act at the time. I mean, maybe not amazing in the ring, but the whole weed thing, it was like an underground culture at the time that if you knew, you knew it was cool, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of that in 2000, actually, you know,
Yeah,
was just
that's what
when
I'm saying. Like not only in wrestling, like in the world, like Eminem, you know,
yeah,
talk
it was
about
all over the
smoking
music, the
pot.
movies. They made a lot of stoner movies, so it was 2000. We had that culture also at school.
Indeed.
So you
The
had that secret
underground weed
underground.
culture at high school.
Exactly. It was hush hush in front of the grown-ups, but we had that culture going
It was
on in
definitely
2000.
underground.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was great to represent that. I mean, like that's why you see the big reactions they got in the crowd.
Exactly.
So afterwards, we get a promo for the Misfits backstage, who say Hacksaw Jim Duggan will be the ref for Hugh Morris versus Lance Storm for the U.S. title. That's the next match. So we get Storm versus Rection. Storm cuts a great promo before the match, as usual. This time he's not in Canada, though. So
He's a heel. Whereas the last pay-per-view, he was the hometown hero. He was Canadian blood coming into, you know, a Canadian event, and again he went back to his regular here. But Lance Storm as a heel was amazing. I think that's a heel. Obviously, we loved him as a face because he's Canadian, but Lance Storm hands down one of the best heels at that era in that company at that time. So
definitely. So he says in the promo, the next night there's a Nitro in Kitchener, which is in Ontario, where he feels that he'll get more respect. Maybe we'll review that Nitro, Stinger. What do you think about that?
absolutely, I'm actually going
a good old Canadian. Maybe that is actually the last Canadian WCW event.
Actually, yeah,
It could be. We'll look
definitely,
into this.
for
We'll
sure.
definitely look into this. Madden claims to have Canadian citizenship. Again, he's amazing when Team Canada's out here.
Yeah, definitely. They get annoyed, Scott Hudson. So he is classic heel, where as Tony and Scott are the faces, and he's just every time they come on, he also does the references. And I like Madden to think of it. I really hated him at the time, but I looking back, I actually like Madden's heel approach. They needed that for sure. I think he was
Definitely.
just trying to balance out the announce, and I think Mark did a good job at that time. He was pretty funny, actually. Made me laugh quite a lot of times.
Yeah, he was great. So yeah, Major Guns during the Canadian national anthem looks bored. She's not like willingly with Team Canada here.
She looks forced.
She's lost. She got lost in a match, which is like, you can't like have someone as a stipulation. She's a human being. It's not like an object. It's
Again,
objectifying women, of course.
Absolutely, but you're in
that's the year
2000. Man, 2000 was wild, and it was just all guns blazing. And yeah, again, I dare you to make a storyline today of this nature and not get canceled.
That's it.
by
People
everyone.
would be canceled for sure. So when Hacksaw comes out to be the ref, he's super popular. This is his hometown of Buffalo, New York. And yeah, Hacksaw gets a great reaction here. Storm is amazing in this match. This is like the only not crazy stipulation match. It is still a stipulation match, having Duggan as the ref, but they keep it in the ring. They keep it to a regular one-on-one match. And Storm really shines here in the ring. He was really on the top of his game here in 2000. What do you think, Stinger?
Absolutely, he was always in control of his matches, and whether I think Lance's storylines always kept it clean. It was classic heel versus babyface, so this was real core wrestling, to be honest. So every time Lance came on, especially in this match, he shined as well. Big fan of Lance Storm. Can't say anything.
At the time, I remember not being a fan of General Rection at all.
I'm still not a fan of General Rection.
I guess, like, if I'm looking at the whole show, he's still one of my least favorites, but he was still, like, pretty good in this match, though. I found, like, he held up his end of the deal.
Yeah, Hugh Morris was good. Like, I liked him as Hugh Morris. I remember Goldberg wrestling with him, you know, so I did like, he was a big guy. He could do, you know, moonsault, and, like, you know, he was able to, he was a good wrestler, honestly, but General Rection, you know, I laughed, haha, General Rection at that time, but he was my least favorite character.
Yeah, that was like a 2000, like...
A super 2000, man. It's just, you
making stupid, like, dick jokes like that was so 2000.
It's super, I mean, come on, secondary one all the way.
Yeah, especially, like, the age that we were at the time. And, like, you know... On WWF, they had characters like Val Venus making references.
Val Venus, yeah, the big John Bowski.
The stuff they would say, and like that was really geared towards like young guys. Like, we loved all that stuff. That was great, you know.
Yeah, they knew how to reach out to the demographical you know, fan base. So they did a good job.
So at one point, Duggan turns on Rection and Storm ends up winning. The fans go nuts. And so Major Guns has to stay with Storm, and Team Canada with Duggan beat down the rest of MIA.
Duggan turned heel.
Duggan
turned heel in his hometown. I saw it coming like when I watched it recently, but when I was a kid, I you know, I really didn't I didn't realize. I just, you know, I was shocked because Jim Duggan was good old America.
It's almost more shocking to see him turn heel than it was to see Hogan turn heel at Bash at the Beach.
Exactly. This was really backstabbing. Like, it was General Duggan,
and
our general.
Not only heel, he turns against his country.
Like, in his hometown. So this was like, they tried to go all big, you know. This was actually worse than Goldberg turning heel.
Yeah, they really put a lot of. This was a big thing for Duggan here.
Yeah, like, it's the first time he kept it clean and babyface for years.
Yeah.
So
for like
this was
many years.
This was pretty big, and you can tell it was Russo, and Russo just wanted to defy the odds with this heel turn, which ended, because I was shocked.
To get Duggan relevant in 2000. It was not an easy task, and I think Russo actually did a pretty good job here, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was the only way to go.
I mean, Duggan coming out again with the American flag, we had seen that for like 20 years.
Absolutely.
It's a nostalgia act, but he had even been doing it in WCW at that point for like 6-7 years.
Always. That was his character. For sure, and it was just shocking. And then he changed styles on top. He comes back,
Yeah, he was
no
clean
beard,
shaven
slicked hair. He
with
looked like
like a tracksuit on.
he looked like he came from Saskatchewan. So for
Yeah, he
sure.
did. So up next, we get a Natural Born Killers interview, which is maybe not the best part because there's a couple good to great backstage moments in this show.
Absolutely. Let me cut you off right now. Mean Gene
Yeah,
Okerlund is a badass.
he is amazing in this show. If people don't know, he kind of changed characters in this era. I guess this might have been Russo,
Yeah,
possibly too, telling him to push it.
absolutely.
So at one point, he calls Mike Sanders a prick and the rest of them pissants. It was hilarious.
He told Palumbo and O'Hare to blow it out of their ass, and they threatened to beat him up, and he didn't stand down. So I loved
Yeah.
this wild Mean Gene Okerlund. This actually suited him, and this was acceptable for the 2000s. So, if it was Russo, really good on him for doing that, because Mean Gene was always our polite, classy,
Exactly.
and he was I think he looked annoyed.
Yeah,
I
he
think he was
always
just
looked annoyed.
annoyed.
Now he's calling people
He's
pricks and
talking back,
pissants.
so I
Blow it out
love
your
that.
ass.
Absolutely love that. Me and Gene, you are my man. Rest in peace. One of my favorite announcer, or an
For
interviewer
interviews,
of
for
all
sure.
times.
He's so
Absolutely
classic. So classic.
amazing.
And
Love
like
him.
honestly, that this was the highlight of the show. People got to go back to see this version of Mean Gene. It's underrated. It's a definite underrated part of this era.
Absolutely. Sanders cuts a compelling promo about how it was the youngs. It's the time for the young guys shining. So again, they were still taking some of that new blood rising and, making it was at the time. I think that was the only storyline to do because they actually,
How about in life though in 2000s? They were the young guys going against the old guys. That was like a
exactly.
theme for youth too. Like Eminem would talk it was all about like
Yeah,
against your
climbing up the
mom, against
echelon, taking the throne, and it was just rebelling against the older folks. So yeah, it fit with the 2000s. So you could see a lot
I
of these
kind of liked,
storylines.
I know at the time, I thought the Natural Born Killers had a cool vibe. I really
Yeah,
thought
they
they had a
did.
cool
They
vibe.
did. They did because they were cool. They were young. They were, pretty. They were good wrestlers. Like no one remembers Mike Sanders now anymore, but I
No, he's
surely do.
forgotten,
Yeah, like
definitely.
super forgotten. He had talent, honestly. They
He was
invested
good
a
on the
lot
mic.
there. He was good on the mic. So, but yeah, NBT was good. I liked them too. I saw them always as heels, and they were, fierce, young. They were beasts in the ring. So definitely dug that 2000s badass heel stable.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, that was a pretty cool promo. I mean, very good, I would say. And the next match leading into that, so we get Big Vito and Paul Orndorff teaming up with all the filthy animals, including Tigress, taking on the Natural Born Thrillers.
This was a 7 versus 7 elimination match. Again, they tried cramming like it's not like they crammed 10 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. Some of these
Exactly.
matches were like 7-on-7, 4-on-4, like no, like 3-on-3. Like it was just crazy. They crammed so many, and again, the ring was smaller, right?
Yeah,
Than
exactly. The
WWF.
ring
So
looked really small in this match.
it looked like people were rioting in in the ring.
Indeed. And like you're saying, like, okay, we already have 10 matches on this show. It's already crammed. You're gonna cram 14 people. Like, it's fine to have an elimination match like this on a show, but how do you fit it in? How do you have that much time to fit all these guys? It's just a crazy idea. I mean,
I think it was a filler again, and they just didn't have a lot to work with. They could have, honestly, with the roster they had, they couldn't minimize things, but it just really looks like they were, trying to give people the money's worth because they were. Don't forget, you're pretty intimidated. You're competing against WWF at the time. They
oh
had the
yeah,
ultimate monster
they had to really try to
roster.
bring their A game
Yeah,
every
A
night.
game and like make give 100% because man, you're competing against WWF 2000. That's pretty intimidating. So they had to cram and do over the top type matches. I think that's what was happening. Russo was like, okay, I'm going to use all. He had a lot of money too, all the funding from Mr. Turner. They had Turner
Yeah,
from Atlanta,
money was
Georgia.
not an issue
It was not an
until
issue,
they
so
went
he
out of
just
business.
exactly. And we'll have an episode on just the salaries that they were
Oh
given.
yeah.
Okay, insane. So yeah, they were just trying to cram, I think. So that's what was happening. But
We'll
well,
definitely have an episode looking into the salaries. We've been looking at that a bit, and some are quite ridiculous. WCW is out of hand in the spending at this point.
absolutely.
And so it's a pretty good match, though. At the beginning, there's a lot of good wrestlers. They really, they all shine. You know what it really reminded me of? A lot of AEW matches today on Dynamite, where they throw out like these 4 versus 4s, where it's a bunch of high flyers. That's
Yeah.
really what it reminded me of.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point, actually, because AEW is like that, and it's just now to see that now, and this product is amazing, right? Because this actually reminds us of
Of like
back in the
modern
day.
wrestling.
Exactly. So, yeah, definitely. And you are AEW with the 4-on-4s, the 3-on-3s, all over the place, all over the screen. Definitely was very reminiscent of good old WCW.
On top of this being an elimination match, at one point there's like weapons used and the ref doesn't mind, but there's not that much weapons used throughout. It's like, so it's not I don't know if it's a no DQ or it's I don't know. The rules were a bit all over the place. They weren't well established. But in general, it seems like DQs have been completely thrown out, like for the whole pay-per-view.
Oh man, the couple of other shows before, it was just, yeah, exactly. They wouldn't even say, "Hey, listen, this is no DQ," and they throw in weapons all over. So you'd just be like, "Is this like?"
It's
It,
really
it, it
hard to
looked
tell. Yeah.
improvised. I think it was improvised. A lot of stuff was
They're
improvised
like,
during the
fuck it.
match.
Let's just like use
Yeah,
some chairs.
yeah. Let's just do whatever the hell we want. We're getting
Russo's
paid.
like, bro, that's a
Yeah.
fucking incredible idea, bro.
Exactly, in the 2000s. So
The crowd loved the Filthy Animals. They were very popular on this. You know?
always got a pop. They were, the hip. They were the hip crewmen at the 2000s, and then rap related as well. That Latino-ish type urban vibe they were giving out. So it was always with the army, and it was huge in the 2000s. If you remember, a lot of people would wear like army camels,
Oh yeah.
or like it was super popular at that time.
DMX, that kind of style, Master P.
Bro. Yeah, absolutely. You guys should check out Def Jam Vendetta Fight for New York. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, definitely. So that's where you'd see it. But absolutely. I mean, they were a big crew. There was a lot of stables, if you remember, huge stables.
Oh
In
yeah. It was
WCW.
a
I
stable
think
era for sure.
it was
They
super
were
stable.
trying to get everyone associated with someone almost also reminding me of modern day AEW, which is basically what they do too.
Exactly. So it
Everyone's
has
in
a
a
lot.
stable in AEW.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just it's working now for sure. At that time as well. So
At the time, Juventud Guerrero was just going as the Juice, and he was pretty awesome in this era. I mean, in this match, he's really, I think, the one who really stood out the most to me.
yeah, Hoovy, yeah, because he went from a traditional cruiserweight. Remember, he was
Yeah,
masked, traditional back in 97, 98, and then
just a
yeah,
masked high
Juice.
flyer, and that's pretty
Yeah,
much it.
exactly. He really revamped himself. He might as well have called himself the Hoovy GHB. But
Yeah,
the Juice. But he was a great wrestler. We knew him. We knew him as it was cool to see him go from traditional cruiserweight to this hip guy, definitely.
to
So he
have
stood
some
out. He shined
swag.
out. There's some swaggy, definitely the way he was dressed always with his jewelry. So big props to Hoovy, honestly, for revamping himself in the 2000s.
So the match actually ends on like a sad note. Orndorff gets what in the industry they call a stinger, which is a temporary paralysis, getting
Ooh.
dropped on your neck. Pretty much the same thing that happened to Austin when he was fighting Owen Hart.
Yeah, put him out
It's
for
a pretty
for a little,
sad moment.
for sure.
And what I mean, they were cutting this on the fly. can't really blame anyone for a panic decision, but they're really like filming him the whole time while he's like in getting the neck brace on. And I find it's just like a long, kind of creepy thing. I didn't enjoy that.
No,
It's just
honestly, they
sad,
should.
and they really
It,
focused on it.
it was definitely. So, I mean, no, they should just stop. You know, they should have focused on something else. As you know, WWF and WWE were good. You know, like when they would when you're shooting the show there live, you know, come on, you could just move on to something else, right?
Exactly. They had so many promos. They could just send it to another guy to do another promo backstage, or
Yeah,
cut
exactly.
to a video package or something. Cut to the
Absolutely.
announcers.
Exactly, right away, and then you know, just film that. It's just really, it was sad to see. I remember seeing
Indeed.
it that time, and we knew who Mr. Wonderful was. So I mean,
Yeah,
pretty
and they
sad.
were trying to like bring him out for like this like happy surprise moment for
And then we
bringing
see
him
him get
back, and
injured.
it ends up being
Exactly.
like tragic.
It's just terrible what they did, just filming them.
So up next, speaking of promos, we get a great promo from franchise Shane Douglas with his blonde hair, who is super heel, of course,
Big
at this
heel,
time, with
big
his
heel.
blonde manager, Tori Wilson, who's also a big heel just by being with him. And this is a continuation of his feud with Kidman. How do you like how this feud has unfolded since our last pay-per-view review, New Blood Rising 2000?
So this was when I really started loving Billy Kidman back in the day, because I knew him from '98. I've played, you know, with him as well, and WCW Thunder guys, PS1, 7 Year Itch, his little intro where he talk about the, and that was something else to the 7 Year Itch. It was just a reference to heroin at that time.
Yeah,
That's just, let's not talk about that. But I was following this. I remember this feud very closely back in the day. And when I saw them again, I was entertained. I liked the idea of Shane Douglas, you know, classic blonde-haired heel, and the Tory storyline with Billy Kidman, who you see a lot. He was lippy a lot after feuding with Hogan, and he was turning into face. I think he was face by then.
yeah, they
And
gave him more mic time. They made
yeah,
him like
definitely.
a kind of like mischievous guy.
He was, and he was great talent too. So I dug Billy Kidman back in the day. I even bought his action figure. Toy Biz made an amazing action figure I had bought from Walmart for $7.95 plus tax. But
I also
I
had
did,
it. I also had
yeah,
the same one with the blue shorts and the white tank
exactly.
top.
And the table that wouldn't break,
Yeah, yeah,
and
I
the
had the
table
same.
that wouldn't. So that was a WCW Bruiser figure, guys. But I like this feud, and Shane Douglas was an amazing heel. I really didn't like him at the time, but watching it recently, I thought he did a great job. Honestly, he was good
These
talent too.
guys were both like, I would say stars. Like their name meant something at this point.
For
Both
sure.
of them.
Billy Kidman, the franchise, absolutely. So I followed this feud closely a lot back in the day in the
Yeah,
2000s. So
it was a pretty known feud, and it went on for a couple months here.
this
So
was pretty intense actually, because this cuts down to after Tori and his heel. It cuts to Pamela Paulshock, Billy Kidman, and
yeah,
Medusa, which
that's
again
it.
in the 2000s they called Tori Wilson a bitch. Billy Kidman called her a bitch once, and then Medusa as well. And then she
Yeah,
called the franchise a bastard. So it was
yeah. So
pretty
they're trying
inappropriate.
to like push the limits here with
They
the
did.
swearing, which is something WWE was or WWF at the time was really doing as well.
Absolutely. So, yeah, they were just like when I saw recently, I was pretty shocked. I was like, "Whoa, you can't say that in
It's like, what you said,
2021."
bitch? Oh my
Yeah,
god.
like twice, and it was pretty vicious. So I don't know. Again, canceling culture today, but in the 2000s, it was just over the top always.
Yeah. So this one, because it is a big feud, you have to up the ante. So I don't really mind that this match is a stipulation match. It's a Pittsburgh plunge scaffold match. And WCW hadn't done a scaffold match since the 80s, I believe, when they were pretty popular back in the days. And they were mostly always tag matches. Not always, but mostly. And this one is too. So the rules are you have to throw your opponents off of the scaffold and then climb down the other side, which is pretty nuts, right? And it's not even
Absolutely.
over the ring, but
Yeah.
it's all crash pads set up. So when they fall, it does look pretty Hollywoody, would you
For
say?
sure. Yeah, it was definitely, but it still looked dangerous, man. I
No,
was
no,
looking at
like
that.
if you
Yeah,
mess up, you're
absolutely.
dead.
You're dead for sure. But yeah, it was just, and it was just shocking because Tori was in it, and it's a pretty
Yeah,
heavy
Tori at
fight.
this point, like,
It
couldn't
was
even have a
starting
regular wrestling match.
exactly.
They
She, like, you
send
can
her up
tell.
20 feet on a scaffold. I can't believe,
Absolutely.
yeah, I felt really bad for Tori in this match actually while watching it. She must have got paid a lot, or they
Yeah,
were convincing her, or I don't know.
imagine what she said when they first told her that she had to do that. Like,
Oh my God, she must have been thought it was a joke or something.
they must have paid her $700,000 for that for sure.
Oh, for sure. So, so Douglas kicks Medusa. She's trying to like run away from him. And she climbs like 2 feet down the ladder where they're going to climb down and then gets kicked off by Douglas, which I mean, look, I'm not going to criticize someone's fall, and this is very dangerous, but like, if you're going to go down 2 feet, why not just like fall off the
The scaffold, yeah, might as well.
fall
I
off
mean,
the
the two
main
feet.
scaffolding instead of going down 2 feet down? What difference does
Yeah,
2 feet make? You know?
exactly. So I don't know if it's because I remember seeing that and it just was kind of pointless. Either you fall off or 2 feet, just don't do it. Do something
Well,
else.
what difference does it make? That's exactly what I was thinking. But she still
Exactly.
did it, and Douglas looked so healed, kicking Medusa off the ladder.
The super
Like
heel.
an awesome. I mean, Medusa at the time was an awesome competitor, and like to be in this match, it kind of made like Tori being in it almost credible, just because Medusa put in her part so bad, you know? She really worked her ass off to make this match kind of like work. Because if it would have been another female with the same
Yeah, she came in as the veteran.
experience as Tori,
Exactly,
it would have been
exactly.
horrible.
She had to lead Tori in the match because she was seasoned, right? Medusa was seasoned. She was an experienced wrestler. So imagine you just had like two exactly wrestlers that didn't know what, not they weren't doing, just not experienced.
So I'm sure it
It
would
would have
have
been a
been horrible,
disaster,
especially a dangerous match like this.
injury prone for sure. So Medusa did a good job because she came in as the veteran and the lead for that. So
Yeah. So one thing though, like last pay-per-view that we reviewed here, which was the month preceding this, these two wrestled in a strap match. Now they wrestle in a scaffold match. Neither match, Kidman could do any of his high flying because with the strap, you can't come off the top rope. You're tied. In this,
exactly.
there's no ropes. You're on just a flat surface.
So they limited him again.
Yeah. So we don't see the best of Kidman's offense here at all,
Exactly.
I would say.
Exactly. So I don't know if they were doing that on purpose, were they, or it was just
I don't know.
fall on the stipulations. They were trying to hold him back because he could do high flying. Shane Douglas was more of a power wrestler as he was bigger and things like that.
Indeed.
So
I would say that's a point of debate. Like, were they doing it on purpose to not like put
limit
him in a
him
position
and
to shine?
yeah,
Or was it
exactly.
just like they weren't paying attention to detail? They're like, oh, we'll do a scaffold match.
Or exactly, or
You
let's do
know,
something dangerous, controversial, something that shows hatred between you
yeah,
two.
it might have sold some pay-per-views. I mean, some people might have wanted to see it, and they really did fall off the scaffold. So the fans got their money's worth here. Kidman gets thrown off eventually as well by Douglas, and he goes through like a breakaway stage. While Medusa looked like she landed on like a big, like blow up pillow kind of thing.
Exactly. That allowed Tori to climb down, and there you go. They won the match.
Franchise and Tori win. Tori Wilson can say she's won a scaffold match in her career.
She came close, but yeah, definitely good on her at that time. We were starting to see Tori a lot, but again, she was inexperienced. This was pretty dangerous. I don't know what they were thinking, but she got a win under her belt, and so did Douglas. So they took the match. Out in the back, a fired up Sting was looking forward to setting the evening of the night, because that's why I love my man Stinger. He was just trying to hype up the fight. And at that time when he said that he was going to get the shot at the WCW title, I thought that he was going to have probably one more run at it. If you remember, they were always making it look like Sting's going to get a shot and stuff.
Yeah, right here, there's the preceding Nitro, Sting is going to get a title match.
Right.
Which would have been that one in Kitchener. So we'll definitely try to review that one, Stinger.
Absolutely. So
we'll definitely try to review that one.
And then we have our boy.
No matter what happens, he gets his title match on the next following Nitro. But this match he has here on the pay-per-view, it's Sting versus Muta versus Vampiro. It's technically a three-way, but Muta and Vampiro are in the same stable. So that's going to end up, we know how that'll end up. We'll get to that match in not too long. But we got, right after this, Jeff Jarrett jumps Sting as he's getting a promo.
Gene, too, gives him some wild attitude.
That's it. So Jarrett jumps Sting, and Okerlund calls Jarrett a bastard. So we're really seeing that, like, anytime Okerlund swears, it's hilarious.
We're like, whoa, what's going on? This is the new gen now. So definitely enjoyed that.
Yeah, and like having forgot about that, it was like shocking to see it. And you know what? They definitely didn't do it on New Blood Rising, because we would have remembered that. So that's something new, either on this pay-per-view or they had started on the Nitro recently.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then Jarrett says he deserves the title shot on Nitro. Anyways, there's some drama there between Sting and Jarrett, but neither of them are wrestling each other on the show here tonight. So there's a lot of guys on the show involved in multiple feuds at the same time.
Exactly, attacking each other, and it was random. Like Jarrett just came out of nowhere and attacked Sting, and he came out in his jersey, his bunkhouse jersey,
Tennessee Titans jersey.
Good old Tennessee. So WJ was super heel at that time. The blonde hair again.
I hated him at the time. Yeah, the blonde hair.
Really disliked him, honestly, and I hated him more when he stole Kurt Angle's ex-wife. No, but but yeah, he was a good heel, honestly. I like him now. We had a discussion about that. So it quickly jumps to a pre-recorded skit, which is Mike Tenay.
Gold. You should go out of your way, fans. If you're going to watch one part of this show, and if there's one part of this show that
extremely,
it just jumps up the star rating on this show. This is your segment. This and Mean Gene are the two best backstage segments I've seen in a while, and they're both on the same show on this old WCW PPV. So I'll let you get into it, Stinger. Let the fans hear about this legendary, golden, beautiful, exquisite segment.
So Mike Tenay visits David Flair at home. Obviously, you can see it's a pre-recorded skit. Tenay walks in, asks Flair how his mental state was after, previously Stacy Keibler revealed that he was not the father. You could tell he was depressed. You could tell classic kind of teenager room. Pizza was on the floor. There was a sock in the aquarium. The whole place was trashed. Big mess. The guy looked depressed. It was just, so 2000s, and it was one of those off, pre-recorded skits vibe. So you see Tenay knock on his front door, given practically no answer, no time to answer. He just opens it up. Again, finally, Flair appeared. This looked very serious, like Mike Tenay looked very worried. So it was good. I love Mike Tenay, by the way. So once inside the home, Flair, say he's not having a good time. You can see cigarette butts all over the place. It's just disgusting. He's a big mess. It's just Mike Tenay started asking him the heavy questions, and you could tell the Flair. He looked insane. He looked like he never slept. Do you agree? He just looked like he never slept.
It's like where he snapped. David Flair snapped.
He looked crazy at that time, honestly, and
so because he was left at the altar by Stacy Keibler, and he found out he wasn't the father of her child. him and Stacy Keibler had been together for like quite some time up to that point. So this was like not only like a 1 month storyline. That's basically how they introduced Keibler with David, and now she kind of betrayed him. So at this point, they're trying to figure out who the real father is, and Tenay says that Ric Flair denied being the father, and David kind of like doesn't acknowledge he says that, but then then David looks out the window, stops paying attention to Mike Tenay says, and does the following. Stinger, tell him what does Flair do from here?
So David spotted a mailman and a dog on the attack. He ran out, clotheslined the unsuspected man on the lawn before pinning him in a figure four, an intense one where he looked like he's ripped his leg off. I don't know why, but it was hilarious. I blew up of laughter when I first saw it, and when I recently
putting a mailman in the figure four on his front lawn, in front of like, it's such a 2000s neighborhood.
Exactly,
beautiful,
super
all nice
long,
cut grass,
sunny, and it was just it was
Pretty
hilarious.
Sure it was
honestly,
filmed somewhere in Atlanta, Georgia, if I'm willing to bet.
Good old Georgia, probably next to Lex Luger's house, but
yeah, exactly.
it was hilarious, man. I honestly died of laughter. And David Flair at the time, I think, was starting to become the Psycho.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Well, he definitely goes nuts here on this mailman.
Yeah, so he went ape on him, and that was funny because it went from serious to, like, it was a classic love drama storyline. Got left at the altar, but definitely hilarious how it ended. I actually shot a video of it, and I'm probably gonna post it on Instagram and tag all my wrestling pages.
Oh yeah, this is a definite
EBT.
classic.
Throwback for sure, man.
Yeah. So I don't remember Mike Tenay usually being the one to get involved in these shenanigans. Usually I remember it being Tony Schiavone being the one like interviewing people in like stupid interviews like this.
Yeah, and serious apparently, but I think Mike Tenay did a good job because he was credible. He did. He absolutely did, because he's super professional. He definitely did better job than Tony. Like, Tony is Tony. He's classic, but Mike Tenay was a bit more, you can tell, professional. Super professional. So that totally agree there.
So we're gonna see the appearance of the ICP, the Insane Clown Posse. They're accompanying Vampiro to the ring for this triple threat match here
versus Great Muta and Sting. Vampiro, if you realize, he got what was it? The Angel of Death?
Yeah.
Angel of Death
gimmick a bit here.
Yeah, he looked a bit darker. I dug it. He just got off freshly. He was still like feuding Sting, and I did like Vampiro at the time because to me he was the evil counterpart of.
I remember at the time I thought Vampiro was really cool.
Yeah, he was, and especially he was Canadian, but yeah, definitely agree there.
Yeah, and so Muta comes out alone, but they're all in the same faction. They work together throughout the match. And the ICP are on commentary. They're pretty hilarious.
They are, but I don't know about you, Jay, but I didn't like Shaggy 2 Dope and Violent J at the time. Like, I never dug him. I saw him on albums.
Music, and I remember in a song, Eminem disses them.
Absolutely,
and I was a big Eminem fan, so like,
I loved it. And every time I saw them, I would just think of Eminem dissing them, and I really disliked them.
And I remember thinking, like, from what I had heard, their music was not my cup of tea, and it still isn't. Like, it's fine if people like that. I just don't. I don't enjoy it.
Absolutely, I think they did fit though with the carnival, the dark carnival.
Oh yeah, they fit in wrestling. They fit in. They fit in on the show. They don't look out of place. I'll
do you remember at that time? Do you remember the famous game with ICP on Newgrounds? They had a game we used to always play in computer class. Yeah. We weren't allowed. Yeah, we used to. I forgot what it was.
That was very 2000s.
Super, and stickdeath.com, if you guys remember. That's super 2000s.
Stick Death, indeed. Stick Death was this great classic animation.
It was at that time. It was man. It was innovating. So yeah, definitely.
Back in the day, this is the stuff people like. That and WCW.
for sure.
So
So skip to the three-way. The
that's
match
it. So
itself.
Sting comes out. He's got to
Yeah.
take on both of them in this match,
Right.
basically.
You know they're gonna exactly. It's 1-on-2, not 1-on-1-on-1. But you
And
know,
it's also
just
a no DQ match,
exactly
which
again,
I
no
guess
clarification.
a three-way should always be a no DQ match, because if one guy gets DQ'd, that doesn't declare a winner, right?
Exactly. And that was all WCW, man, from 99 to 2000. I think that's all they
There
did.
were, you can almost assume every match is not is a new no DQ.
Right. But just to say, when they came out, you could tell that Vampiro and Grey Muta were technically still teammates, but it was
Yeah,
just so
yeah.
awkward. It looks like there was a bit of dissension there.
It was a
But
weird thing to
you know,
put these guys in a
yeah,
angle.
they look
Oh
like
yeah,
brainless zombies.
Indeed. Yeah, they all look really cool. I like their look. It's through the three masked guys, the three face painted guys, shall I say.
For sure.
And then at one point, Muta and Vampiro, they stopped getting along. And the ICP tries to stop them from arguing. Just in the nick of time for Sting to come in, able to go get his bat, because other than that, Sting was just getting beaten down the whole match. I mean, it's 2v1, no DQ. So
Yeah, at the
finally,
time, I honestly I was happy because I love Sting. He's my guy, so he won. But looking at it back, I was like, okay, so he comes in, hits them a couple of times. That they beat him, and then he just takes a win. So it was a quick win, actually, predictable, to be
he
honest.
gets the
But
win here. He comes out looking strong for his title match the following night.
absolutely.
And then after the match, Vampiro and the ICP turn on Muta, which I kind of felt bad for Muta. They
Yeah.
kick Muta out of the Dark
Yeah, they
Carnival
kick
here.
him out, and actually, I think Sting helps him at the end. He just helps them come out, and I think that was the
I think
end of
Sting and
Muta.
Muta might have teamed up
Bit
maybe
later,
on maybe a Nitro or something.
yeah,
after
I
this.
think so because they go way back, man. They've
Yeah,
had battles.
Sting and
The
Muta,
announcers, man, that's
since
classic
the 80s
WCW.
had some classics. I'll find a perfect event with those two on it, and we'll review it at one point.
Absolutely. Sure. Muta even had his classic 1980s theme, man. So it was just definitely good to see Sting. You know, that's why he was a hero. He helped him. He helped him come out the ring, and I think that was the end of him in the Dark Carnival.
Yeah, Muta was a really cool roster member for WCW 2000 here.
Absolutely.
Definitely. It wasn't a guy that WWF probably could have got because he had such a big history with WCW that.
But that's
come here.
That's a special thing about WCW was a trademark. They had Japanese, they had Mexican luchas, they had British, so they had everything. They had the big names. They had
it was
Canada.
Always international.
It was super international. That was always a huge team that gave them a lot of success back in the day. They just really classic.
Stood out.
Yeah,
it wasn't just a bunch of white boys from the States.
Exactly, but also it was just random to see Muta, a Japanese wrestler in WCW at that time, next to ICP and Vampiro. And Sting,
what a bizarre mix.
It was bizarre, but it was yet very good, honestly.
Yeah. So then we get that 70s guy comes out of his bus. He has this Partridge Family style bus. And he says he's got a huge surprise for tonight. It ends up being Gary Coleman.
Yeah, it was just randomly.
Gary Coleman. And they say wait, Gary Coleman, your show was actually in the 80s. It wasn't in the 70s. And then they're like, whatever. And they just laugh and they're like, that's fine. And
that was
then
super old school.
Gary Coleman, they're like, come on, say what you're talking about, Willis. And he's like, no, I don't say that anymore. And they just cut. What the hell was that?
That was funny. It was just what they were trying, reality, and reality was big back in the 2000s. So,
and bringing in random stars, WCW did that from time to time, not that often, but this is one instance. So that leads into Awesome's match. Awesome taking on Double J, Slapnuts, the Chosen One, Jeff Jarrett in a bunkhouse match, which is basically just a hardcore match. but all the weapons are like pre-set up around the ring.
Absolutely. Also, do you remember back Bash the Beach 2000s? Awesome had dismissed Pamela Paulshock. He didn't say. She said, not. She wasn't as nowhere as near as attractive as large BBW women, because he had that BBW.
That's what he was
thriller.
into.
WCW, man, it's just so inappropriate at the time. I really think you can't get along with that. And Awesome pulled it off. It was just he was just a great wrestler.
The last pay-per-view, Awesome was basically just like a normal badass heel wrestler.
Exactly.
And in this one, he's completely changed into this like 70s throwback guy.
Right.
It's a very Russo thing. That 70s show at the time was a very popular sitcom. Remember?
It was absolutely, man. It was the sitcom, because we didn't.
It might have been the most popular sitcom. Well, like for younger people.
Absolutely, Fresh Prince. I think Friends was still going on, but 70 show was picking up. It was more. It was actually more known faces. So it was the show.
It was
at the
on
time.
Fox.
Absolutely. So big time.
Yeah.
Is that why you think they came up with that gimmick? Is to rip
off?
Like
it definitely
WCW ripped off a lot of things. Yeah. So I would say for sure.
Yeah, like anything that was popular in pop culture,
they would rip off.
So would probably like make a character into that.
That's what we wanted to see, I think, at the time
it's not a bad idea. It's really not a bad idea. So basically the Buffalo Bills are ringside and they get involved in this match. Jarrett at first is like throwing them like under the bus, saying they're a horrible team. And then so as they're brawling, the Bills are always there. You got to keep that in mind as the match goes on. So
Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills from 2000 here. They're a bunch of like big guys. And so the match starts like Awesome and Jarrett. They're basically just beating each other up with weapons and like basically chairs mostly all around ringside. There's no like real rhyme or reason. They're just hitting each other with weapons. The first big hardcore spot comes when Jarrett, like Awesome is going to go for his awesome bomb, power bomb off the top rope through a table, but Jarrett back body drops him off the top rope through a table. That was a pretty intense spot for Awesome to take.
It was definitely. It was kind of reminiscent of ECW. Yeah, if you remember, because it was you saw a glimpse of that right there, and I think those two, it was definitely Awesome. Brought that ECW vibe. You knew you were watching ECW. Awesome.
That's right. He really did. Mike Awesome really in WCW here, a lot of his matches tended to be also hardcore matches, which is what he was known for and what he specialized in. And like for a big guy, he could not only give it out, but he could take a good beating. Like taking that back body drop off the top rope was like, I don't think Hulk Hogan would take that.
Absolutely not. Nor Randy Savage, nor Lex Luger, and nor of the other. Exactly, no way. So
props to Mike.
Good point right there.
Underrated
big time.
For sure.
Rest in peace, man. Definitely Mike Awesome, one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, watching this back really made me appreciate him again.
Me too, and almost sad to be honest, because Awesome was really underrated, man. They should have.
When he should have been main eventing. He did get to WWF, but he never got anywhere near the chance.
Credit, like he just came out of nowhere and attacked someone in the back. If I remember, in the Invasion, you saw him stick around for a bit.
He never got a chance to be a main eventer. He never got a chance to do anything.
He should have 100%, man. He had the wrestling style. He had the mic skills.
So, like, at the beginning of the match, with Jarrett's getting under the football player's skin, I thought they might get involved. They end up getting involved. They jump over the railing, which seemed like pretty nuts to me, while rewatching it. You don't see that, like, happen very often. But they just stay on the railing, and you could tell that, like, they were very limited in what they were going to do and what they were not going to do. Like, they never actually got in the ropes, you know? Yo,
that was a great match for sure. Honestly, way better than what I thought it was gonna be. 100%. And they were trying to. It was so old school because you remember they used to wear street clothes, no DQ brawls. So I like that they brought
Yeah,
that
yeah, like the
that
streetwear.
vibe.
It was like a real. It
Absolutely
was a bit more than
classic.
just a normal hardcore match.
Absolutely.
So at one point, Awesome tries to throw Jarrett through a barbed wire table twice, but it doesn't break. It just looks like it hurts. I'm sure it hurts more, when it
It
doesn't
did
break it when it
because he
does.
bounced off it. I think you
Yeah,
could just see like he bounced like, and it doesn't break. Like when it breaks, it doesn't hurt, but when you bounce, I think
it's
off of it
gotta
and it
hurt for
doesn't
sure.
break,
It's like
it's gotta
bouncing
hurt.
off a floor, basically.
Yeah, definitely bruised right there, man. That was a
Yeah.
bump for sure.
And the football players end up helping Awesome, but Jarrett kicks out of all that. And then the football players end up like leaving. The ref is like, okay, leave. And they're like, okay, okay. They finally like start to listen to the ref. And like all in that confusion, Gary Coleman comes from backstage.
Out of nowhere with a
Yeah.
guitar that was bigger than he was.
Yeah, looked like very comical. And Jared ends up hitting Gary Coleman with the guitar, which is so heel. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Then my boy comes out,
Yeah.
Sting, just out of nowhere to
Finally,
gain his revenge and gives Mr. Double J a Scorpion death drop, which ultimately was enough to give Mr. Mike Awesome the count and the fall. So Mike Awesome takes this one. Classic WCW. Someone came out,
yeah, it had to
interfered.
happen like it
I think
hadn't
that's why
happened
they.
yet on the pay-per-view, I don't think.
No, yeah,
So
no, true, but I think that's why they did the no DQ because it was just always riddled with, you know,
run-ins.
run-ins, man. I think that's what killed also. But I mean, it was Jared and Awesome. I wanted to see Jared get jumped somehow, and he did by my boy, the Stinger.
Yeah. But like overall, there's just like so much going on in this match. It reminded me also of Awesome's match against Lance Storm the month prior. They're
Yeah,
always putting
New Blood
Lance,
Rising.
putting Awesome in these matches with all this crazy interference and crazy rules.
I think they were trying to bring that ECW vibe.
Yeah, we're unpredictable. So after that match, we get a Scott Steiner promo, which it's not one of his best crazy promos, but he's definitely going crazy here. And it's going to be Steiner Goldberg in a no DQ match later on.
It was definitely the package, the video package they showed before. Well, you saw Goldberg beat up Madija real bad, remember? And then he puts her through the table. Then Scott had ended up kidnapping Goldberg's girlfriend because real men settled their difference by abusing women at that time.
Yeah, like what the hell? But
so this was
a
yeah,
very
followed up
2000s edited package
Superman,
too.
like absolutely. And this led pretty
Like
much
anyone
to
could make a slicker looking package on like iMovie today,
like on the phone, on your iPhone,
even
do
on
it.
your
So
phone. Indeed.
absolutely. And then Steiner always was funny. It was a backstage promo there with Steiner ranted to Mean Gene like usual, that he was loaded. He was a loaded Sex Pistol,
Yeah.
ready to explode. So Papa was just great back in the day, and he was very inappropriate, but it was part of Papa, man.
Indeed. Yeah, so that's the next match leading into that. We get the no DQ. Both guys have their classic entrances, which is like awesome. Both guys are huge here, like muscle wise, ridiculously huge. In the match, Steiner's wearing a face protector because I think he had like a broken cheekbone or something.
Just to tell you, I saw an interview with Bill Goldberg. I don't know if you saw it recently. He said that the reason that happened is he broke Scott's orbital. Remember, I think it was a Thunder or Nitro before they were fighting in the parking lot in the arena. One of them showed up, I think,
Yeah,
and they beat up each other in the arena.
Backstage.
And Steiner was, when they were wrestling, he told him, "Hey, hit me hard, like, dude, just give me a real one." And then Goldberg, this was happening as they were wrestling, and he was like, "Oh, are you sure? Are you serious?" And then he ends up hitting him, giving him a real shot with not his punching hand, his the right side. So he ended up punching him southpaw, but he said so in the interview that he couldn't control that arm and punch like he could control his main boxing hand,
Yeah.
right? So he ended up belting him in the face, breaking his orbital bone.
Oh,
Therefore,
fuck.
Papa Pump came out with that mask that kind of looked like he was a mental Jason Voorhees style
Yeah.
killer, which he
Oh,
was.
yeah, there you go. Exactly. So some great WCW facts here from WCW expert The Stinger. Thanks for that one, buddy. We get a lot of big power moves in this. Steiner throws Goldberg on his head a couple times. They're just really, I think they just both agreed that they're going to beat the hell out of each other. It's a no DQ, but beyond chairs, they're mostly just throwing each other into the guardrail and the steps. So all throughout the show, there's all these like no DQ matches, but they all kind of like do different things that are not disqualifiable offenses, which is, I guess, good, but I mean, why not do the most violent possible thing? Who cares if
absolutely. I think they were
Right.
safe. They were playing it safe. They were, you know, they're the huge names. But honestly, at that time, I really didn't realize in the 2000s because I just saw Scott Steiner, you know, wrestling Goldberg, like the two most menacing badass wrestlers at the time. Right? Could have been better, honestly, but it was just two huge names. I didn't really pay attention to the details at the
No,
time.
you're right. It was really about the name.
Like it was Goldberg and Papa Pump, man. You know, like you couldn't compete with that. Now that I look at it, I could see what they could have done better with
But
it for sure.
honestly, at New Blood Rising, when it was these two and Kevin Nash in the match, that was absolutely horrible. This match was much better than that match.
Oh, for sure, for sure. That previous match was really like the worst. It was classic, really crappy WCW. Sorry to say, but you know, I mean, this was way better, 100%.
And like how bad it was or whatever, honestly, at one point, like Steiner slams Goldberg through a table. Not throughout the whole match, but throughout some parts of the match, the whole crowd is on their feet. Like the crowd was into this match.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, because it was heavy artillery. It was Scott Steiner versus Goldberg, and even I think I felt that a bit when I was watching it recently. I think I
The
felt
hype,
that
yeah.
it was super hyped, man, to see
Yeah.
these two monsters clash.
There was one part I got really hyped for when Vince Russo hit the ring and hit Goldberg with a steel pipe. Oh no, with he hit her with a bat, and Medeja came out with a steel pipe. So
Yeah.
Steiner had both of them helping him out, and Goldberg fought and fought and fought. He really like makes Steiner look good in this match. And at one point, Russo and Medeja hitting Goldberg with the steel pipe or the bat doesn't knock him out. But then Steiner grabs the pipe and hits him. Steiner
Knocks him
puts
out.
him in the recliner.
Recliner wins
Steiner
by
actually
TKO.
beats Goldberg here on
Yeah.
Fall Brawl.
Exactly. I was shocked to see that. I was really mad. I really wanted to see Pump get beat down by Goldberg, but then this showed how dominant Papa Pump was by hitting him square up in the face with a pipe and giving him a recliner to a TKO win.
Yeah, I really
That was
wasn't
brutal.
expecting Goldberg to win that. I mean,
Yeah,
I
go
was
down like
expecting
that.
Goldberg to win.
Yeah, same here. But to see him go down like that, like he got literally TKO'd.
Yeah. Yeah, Goldberg gets like a
was-
beat down here.
Man, and you don't Goldberg. What is the one that TKOs people? So to see
Exactly.
Steiner, that was when Steiner really became. They were pushing him. He was on his way.
That's it. He was
to become the
to become like a
dominant-
main eventer, a world champion.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And they did a good job. And he was menacing, man. The Papa.
He was
Sex
so big
Pistol.
at this time.
He was super big, you know, due to eating really healthy meals and working
Good
out all
working
the
out
time.
and prayer. Lots of prayer.
Exactly. Lots of vitamins as well. Good
Yeah.
vitamins.
So that was our semi-main event. We get a Booker T promo on Kevin Nash because it's Nash versus Goldberg in a cage for the world title main event. That's our next match. At the last pay-per-view, Booker T had been the champion at the end of the pay-per-view. But coming into this one, Nash is the champion because of some Russo BS that was pulled on Nitro. Like You could see that they were trying to do less interferences and stupid finishes on the pay-per-views. Looking at the last pay-per-view we reviewed and this one, but I'm pretty sure that stuff was still going on Nitro and Thunder.
It happened all the time on Nitro and Thunder, and they're like, "Hey, you know what? Let's do this all week, but let's not do it. Let's
We'll have
try
a classic show on the at least on the pay-per-view.
on the pay-per-view. So let's give them crap all week, and then they'll pay for the pay-per-view. Or I still love WCW, but yeah, you're totally right. So they did try to limit themselves during the
Yeah.
pay-per-view because you don't want to pay money, man, to see that. Like you see it on cable and stuff. Totally understand.
No, but yeah, like seeing a DQ on a pay-per-view.
Come on.
You're gonna buy WWF the next month,
Exactly, and that's how it happened a lot, and I think didn't
that
stop
cost them at some point a bit
lot,
for
man.
sure, at least
Definitely.
So yeah, it's a cage match. It's in a weird kind of cage. The cage is like on the inside of the ring posts.
Yeah,
it's like stuck to the ropes.
Exactly, it's not on the outside where it gives
like
a leeway.
There's not even enough room for them to stand on the apron.
Yeah, so no leeway. It was just like an octagon, kind of like a UFC-ish octagon in between the four posts. So there was no leeway to do, some high flying. I think Kevin Nash's knees, right?
Wouldn't
he's not
take really
that,
a good guy to have in a cage match, anyways.
No, because he's very injury prone. Great wrestler. I love Kevin. Big sexy, but I think he was really getting injured. By this time,
he was
his legs were finished, man. His quads and his knees. He had many surgeries, I think. No, he had at least two or three. Two for sure, man. So
he kind of dominates the match in the beginning. He hits his sidewalk slam. He's going for a lot of pins. He even hits a choke slam, which isn't one of his main moves. It's pretty much a slow style Kevin Nash match.
It was because he looked. I think he was injury prone. So I also realized that. I know he was a bit faster and things, a bit more agile before his injuries.
Yeah,
which is totally normal. But you can tell, he was doing the big power moves. And the choke slam, I've seen him do it, I think, twice, just randomly out of nowhere. I think he's like,
it's not a
Sid Vicious can power bomb people and choke slam people. I'll just do it myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing,
it's a big man move. That's it. So basically, the pay-per-view before, I found Nash's performance horrible. And here, I don't find his performance horrible, but I still don't think he should be in the main event.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been a way better cage match with anyone who was more mobile, and he kind of dominates Booker throughout the whole match. Booker busts him open at one point. Nash is bleeding. And then Booker ends up winning with the bookend, and we get a new champion. That's a second pay-per-view in a row that the main event has no interference. I'm pretty impressed, Stinger.
Yeah, same here. Because again, the money's, people's money, and we really didn't want to see that. So it came off across though like something you'd see killing 10 minutes on Nitro. Like, yeah, it was a clean at least finish, but definitely a Nitro type fight without the DQ. And again, Booker T reclaims the WCW World Heavyweight Championship again. So Booker was really at his top, because they were pushing him.
Yeah, they were really pushing Booker T as their top baby face going forward here.
Yeah.
They're cementing that here as a main event.
Exactly.
Holding the title.
Exactly.
And I think this was his second of his 5 WCW title reigns here.
Yeah, and if you remember, Booker was getting pushed real bad because maybe a couple of months before, he beat Goldberg cleanly.
Yeah, and how many people beat Goldberg? Like,
it's very rare.
10, for sure.
Unless it was DQ and stuff, which was like the previous match. But cleanly, he gave him a bookend under 5. They pushed Booker. He deserved it. Booker T was the man. And to me, Booker T was the Rock, as we mentioned, of WCW at that time. So
definitely. The charisma. And they could try to build a company around him. And he tried his best. He was really a great company man for WCW.
Absolutely.
Anyone who was a WCW fan, I'm sure, loved Booker T back then.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
And save the drama for
your mama.
So overall, Stinger, what would you give this pay-per-view on 10?
All right. So to be honest, lackluster wise, everything wise, I would give it also I think a nice solid 4 on 10.
Yeah. I gave it 4.5 on 10. I gave last week, I think you also gave New Blood Rising 5 on 10.
Yeah, so it
I
was a
found this
bit better.
pay-per-view, it wasn't that much worse than, it was just really mainly the main event was kind of a boring match, I found.
Yeah, it was, and most, funny to say, sadly to say, a lot of main events were boring on the like all the good matches were not the
Mid-card
main
matches.
event. It was all the mid card matches, like with the
That was
crazy
kind of a staple of
stipulation.
WCW, and that's especially like because when you have guys like Kevin Nash, he's a great character. He'll sell you
Yeah.
tickets. People want to see the match, but then when it gets to the match, it's never really
Yeah,
that exciting.
exactly. Now I don't know if again they were trying to put. Yeah, they were. It was a new blood angle, right? It's kind of still dying out, but it was the new
Like
gen taking
Russo,
over.
yeah,
So
like
we focused more, I think, on the mid card and gave all the oomph on the mid card matches, and rather than we love Booker. Everyone loved Booker. Don't get me wrong, and Nash, but it wasn't like your most exciting, hyped up, match.
like
Right?
the
So
cage, like no one like they didn't really use the cage to like its fullest
no,
extent.
it was just a cage
He won
surrounding.
by pin. He didn't win by
Yeah,
like trying
it
to
wasn't
climb
like
over.
wow. I think the previous match was more exciting,
Yeah,
to be
really.
honest. So
Which was surprisingly not bad. Like I'm really surprised at how much I enjoyed that Steiner Goldberg match. I think the
exactly,
common denominator is Nash.
yeah. And this one, and I don't know if Nash was booking at this time.
I think he
The
had some
event.
kind of influence with Russo. I think Russo
I think
really
it
enjoyed
was.
him.
Was it possibly Russo and Terry Taylor?
There was a lot of changes, but Terry Taylor was definitely a backstage influence. I'd say for sure Russo. This was like a very a Russo time here. We see him
Right,
on the show.
right. He had full control, I think,
Yeah.
almost.
So that'll be it for this episode of the Turner Podcasting System. Stinger, you got any shout outs or words you want to give the Wrestling Nation here on IndieQuebec.com?
Shout out to IndieQuebec.com first and foremost for always giving me the opportunity to have fun. Shout out to you, Prez, for all the work you contribute and for being such an encyclopedia to me back in the day. Shout out to the 2000s. Shout out to Eminem's album back in 2000. Shout out to all my wrestling peeps, to all the fans out there. Shout out to Quebec. And shout out to WCW for giving us such memorable, funny, wacky events. And wrestling fans, on this note, I do wish you to have a beautiful, beautiful week. Holidays are coming soon. And just want to give a shout out to all my wrestling fans. Stinger is out.
That's right. So thanks for listening, fans. This one was brought to you by the Xbox Make Some Noise contest. If you want to win the Xbox Mattel Elite figure, all you got to do is like the IndieQuebec.com Facebook page before the end of January, and you will automatically be entered into that contest. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Turner Podcasting System. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.